Hello, welcome so much to Living and Learning. I'm Allison Kinnear. I'm so excited that you're here today. Today we are talking about clearing the clutter. And it's interesting, this virus, this pandemic has forced us to clear out so much in our lives and many things outside of our control, right? Like it's cleared out our routines, it's cleared out perhaps some beliefs around safety, it's cleared out a lot of things. And what I have been doing recently is doing a lot of clearing of things that I want to get rid of. And it's kind of a way to control the things that you can, right? Like when we can take charge in our lives and clear stuff out, then what I love is that it allows for new things to come in. It's a way of adding by subtracting. We get to add to our lives by subtracting and taking things away. And so what I mean by that is that when you can take away the things that are draining you, the things that are even mildly energetically sucking some of the life out of you, then what happens is when you eliminate that, then you can see all of the things that do bring you joy in your life. And so there's three ways that I've been clearing the clutter recently. Number one, physically. There was a bunch of stuff that needed to go to the dump that had been sitting around for a really long time. And one of my neighbors said, "Hey, I'm doing a dump run. Anybody want to just throw your stuff in?" And so we just piled up all that stuff. Yes, it took energy to get rid of it. But now when I look around, when I go out into my yard, I'm not seeing the, moldy, worn out, wood rotted boards. I'm not seeing all of this stuff that every time I would look at it, I'd be like, "Oh, that's right. I've got to take that to the dump." Like that's gone. So now when I go out into my garden, I see my garden. I see my flowers, I see my trees, and I feel good when I'm out there. The second way to clear things out is digitally. For those of you who I'm Facebook friends with, I went through my entire Facebook friend list. And, being an entrepreneur, there's people that I have met or I know through certain networks, or perhaps I don't know at all, but because we're all part of the same network, they've sent me friend requests. And I used to, when I first, I was off Facebook for over 3 years, and it was liberating. It was difficult to do at first, but then it was incredibly liberating. And when I decided I wanted to start my own business, I got back in again because it's such a great platform. However, what I started off with a boundary around, I'm only going to become friends with people I know, who I've had conversations with, who I actually know. And then I slipped on that boundary and just was like, well, anyone, it's okay. And what I found is that as I would be scrolling through, there were photos of people I had no idea who they were. There were people sharing their stories and I had no idea who they were. And the people I wanted to see, they either weren't showing up or they weren't showing up as frequently as all these other people who I didn't know. And so I unfriended the people I didn't know. And it's not because I don't want to be friends with them, but it's just because I don't know them. They don't know me. And I just felt like, you know what, let's sever that. And I also either unfollowed or unfriended people that were sharing narratives on Facebook that I found to be triggering. Like I found myself kind of tripping over certain posts that I would find myself having emotional responses to. I was getting angry, I was getting upset. I was just, or even if I wasn't getting angry and upset, I would see it and then just be like, ugh, come on. And that feeling, that like, ugh, feeling, that's not how I want to feel when I'm scrolling through Facebook. And it's important for me not to live in a political echo chamber. So it wasn't even about politics. It was just, the stuff that is obviously fake stuff, the stuff that I really disagree with. I, depending on who they were, if they were an acquaintance that I didn't really know that well, I unfriended them. And if they were someone who was a family member or a closer friend, I just unfollowed them. And with some of them, I even just muted them for 30 days. That's an option on Facebook. You can be like, I'm going to take a month off of seeing what you post. So that felt so good. And now when I go through Facebook, what's so interesting is that I'm like, oh, it's all my people. It's all the people that I really love and enjoy and love seeing their posts. So I love that I don't have to scroll through like 4 or 5 things that I like, and then 2 or 3 things that I don't like, and then 4 or 5 things that I like, and then 2 or 3 things that I don't like, because our brains are sticky for the negative, right? They're slippery for the positive. And so even though I would see more positive things, my brain would just get really stuck on those other things in my thread. And now that I've eliminated that, it's really nice to be on Facebook again. It's like, oh, cool. I'm enjoying it now. So physical space, digital space. The other space that I have been trying to clear out is the emotional, energetic space. We have experienced a tremendous amount of change in a really short time, not just for ourselves, but for our families, our children, our loved ones. And I found myself putting pressures around like, well, you used to be a teacher, so it's time to be a really great teacher. And you have a business to run, so be a really great entrepreneur, coach, business owner. And you're married and you're a mom, so like be a really good wife and be a really good mother. Oh, and I'm a daughter and a sister and a friend. So make sure, it's like all of these expectations around what that ideal version would be, my ideal friend version, my ideal mom version, my ideal homeschool teacher version, all of those expectations. It's like, wait a second, we are in a crisis here. We're in a crisis. It may not feel like a crisis because it's Groundhog Day and we're just getting up, doing the same thing and, spending most of our days in our pajamas. But the reason why we're doing that is because everything has changed. And so when those like, oh, you should be doing better as a mom, or you should be doing better as whatever, as a teacher, it's like all of that I found was not helping me. And I've seen it with my clients, I've seen it with my friends. It's not helpful. And so whenever I would find myself feeling anxious about that, particularly, I'll just talk about homeschool for a little bit. When I was feeling like I'm getting emails going, here are the assignments, and then I'm sitting down and it's nothing but power struggle, power struggle, power struggle. I'm like, I'm going to turn my kid off to learning if we continue to engage in this. And so I just wrote to the teacher and said, hey, we are doing fine. However, I'm finding it's a lot of power struggles around finishing assignments. And so my kid really will write and he will do activities, but he'll do it with the things he's interested in, not necessarily from the assignments that are coming from school. And when I wrote that to my child's teacher, she was like, that's great. I don't want power struggles. Like, your child and your family has enough on your plate. Like, if you can avoid a power struggle, please do. As long as he's reading and writing in his own way, that's fine. Like, all of the should that I was experiencing was like alleviated. But I had to come to terms with, wait a second, I'm not going to be my child's teacher. My kid's relationship is like, I am mom. I am not teacher. I am not school. I am mom. I am home, right? Like, that's what I represent in their eyes. And so when we as parents try to take on that teacher role, our kids are a bit like, no, this isn't going to happen. And so it's like, okay, well, let's find other ways to inspire, to kind of have practical learning, right? Like, our kids do math every time they bake. Our kids and cooks things. Our kids do reading when we're baking and cooking things. the storytelling that our children are doing, we can capture those moments in different kinds of ways. So allowing some of those expectations to be alleviated was something that helped me in my mental health. So I encourage you to take a look around your life. Like, what are the things that are that could be cleaned up, cleared out physically in your physical space? What objects, what drawers, what things need to be kind of cleaned up? What in your digital space can be cleaned up, and what in your emotional belief system space can also be cleaned up? This is a great opportunity, because once we can clear that stuff out, then we can breathe a little bit more and receive all the beauty and the gifts and the joys in our life a little more clearly, a little bit more crisper. That is what I have for you. In the VIP, I have a tool to help people be able to reflect on those things. And we'll talk about the how, because it's really easy to get overwhelmed with something like this. But we'll talk about the how in that. So I will put a link in the comments below. I wish you a wonderful week of living and learning and clearing out the clutter in your life in whatever form it takes. If there's a wonderful way that you enjoy clearing out the clutter, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear. All right, I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.